Happy Sunday, happy Sunday, happy Victory Sunday. That hasn't been said for almost a month now. We went on a month hiatus of Victory Sunday, and we finally have a victory on homecoming day in the 1972 uniforms on a 1972 field. Trojans defeat the Cornhuskers 28-20. Jayden Maiava gets his first start, and things are looking up, as some will say. We got the tripod here today on this Victory Sunday. Long time no see from the tripod. We got the Madman. We got Ryan Dyrute. Madman, how are you doing today?
Doing well, Coach. Doing well, Ryan. Great to have all of us together after a few weeks. Happy Sunday to all, and so excited to jump into things.
Ryan, how are you doing?
Yeah, what's up, guys? Miss you guys. So thanks for holding the fort down. But glad to be back with you. It's Christmas season officially in the Dyrute household.
No, it's not. It's Thanksgiving. It's Thanksgiving.
November 1st is Christmas season.
We see the beautiful tree back there, Rye. Absolutely.
Yeah. But anyway, good to see you guys.
So it's funny because I saw something that says if you ask somebody when does Christmas start, is it after Thanksgiving or after Halloween? If I ask my sister-in-law, who's Canadian, she could technically say after Halloween because her Thanksgiving is in October. So she
that's right. You celebrated that, didn't you?
I celebrated it. Yeah. We celebrate two Thanksgiving a year in the Rowe family.
There we go. There's the USC Thanksgiving and the Oregon Thanksgiving.
Yeah, she did play volleyball at Oregon. So
there you go.
Yeah, that does make sense. Oregon barely squeaked it out last night.
I was going to say you were almost afforded to talk a lot of S yesterday.
Oh man, I was ready to fire it up. He was really quiet yesterday too. I already knew. So something was like, let me check the score. And then when I went to go check the score, I was like, that's why he's quiet today. Typical Oregon guy. They get quiet when their back's against the wall. But definitely, enough about them. Guys, we got a victory yesterday. We got a new starting quarterback, Jayden Maiava, 25 for 35, 259, 7.4 yards, average, 3 touchdowns through an interception. And then the QB rating, 79.4. So this leads to this question, and I guess we could talk about it tomorrow, so let's not lead to it, but we'll leave a cliffhanger. Is he here to stay? That's the question we have to ask. There was a Miller Moss sighting. I saw Miller Moss talk to Patrick Mahomes III at the end of the game, so Miller Moss seems like he's in good spirits. We don't know what he's going to do, but let's go around the horn. Let's get your thoughts about the game. Ryan, you were there. I was supposed to get a press pass for that, Jamal, but you know how Ryan does me all the time.
I can imagine. I can only imagine.
How I do you. I'm not the Wizard of Oz that controls these things.
Ryan, you were there. What was the atmosphere like for homecoming? What did you think about yesterday's game?
Yeah, I mean, up and down game for sure. Interesting atmosphere. A lot of Nebraska fans. It was good for TV because they wore red, so you couldn't tell, but there was definitely a lot of Nebraska fans there, which is good. We knew Big Ten would travel, so it's always fun. But it was a really, I think, fun game. It was up and down game. USC did kind of everything they could to give that game to Nebraska, and what they hadn't done in those 5 losses, they actually found a way to win. So I think that's the thing you can hang your hat on in a good way. But you think about a pick 6, you think about a fumble in the red zone, you think about a missed field goal and a basically given opportunity. They did a lot to give that game to Nebraska, but they did what they had to do to win. I thought they controlled the line of scrimmage fairly well. Nebraska only finished 819 yards on the ground, 191 through the air. So defensively there was some lapses here and there, and I think that last drive I would have liked to see them close it out a little better, not having to take it down to the end zone final seconds. But overall I thought defensively they played pretty well, and offensively you could definitely see Maiava was new. You could see, I think everyone could see why he was not starting it. You see the ceiling and the arm talent and the potential in Maiava, but you could see why he hadn't started the year. He just wasn't quite ready yet. And you could see that, but you can see the absolute, what he brings the offense that Miller Moss maybe did not. I think he opened things up in the run game and obviously had the rushing touchdown as well. Tremendous arm talent. I mean, I think his second pass of the game, he attempted like a 50-yard bomb down the sideline. So, it was fun to watch. The offense kind of come to life in a different fashion that we hadn't seen this year yet, I thought. And so a lot to build off that, and I think it'll just get better. And then the last thing I'll say is I think Deuce Robinson had his best game as a Trojan overall. I think I don't know. I think statistically actually had the best game, but just the way he actually contested catches, it's one thing that I think has been lacking this year is, as good as he is and as big as he is, I hadn't seen that like contested catch ability this season so far. It's like whenever Miller Moss would throw it up, like he didn't do him any favors and go up and get it. And in this game, he did. He had that huge third down catch on that game-winning drive. He had that big, obviously, one down the sidelines in the first half that could have been another interception. So great game from Deuce Robinson and good overall performance, I thought, from this team.
Man, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, it was certainly an up and down game. I really had a kind of a couple takeaways. Obviously, we got to start with Maiava, and you guys said it really well. I mean, obviously the 25, 35, 259, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. He did have the fumble. But, obviously you see the good, you see the challenges. Physically, he's so gifted. I think, from a processing information standpoint and understanding defenses and sort of understanding kind of the nuances of playing quarterback, he's just at the beginning of his journey. It's interesting because 4 of the 4 touchdown drives, 3 of them could have ended in interceptions very easily. So he had the 1 pick six to Sayre Wright, and then obviously had the fumble later in the game, inside the SC's own 20-yard line. But man, if you look at some of these other drives too, I mean, even the first touchdown drive, the throw up to Deuce there, Deuce kind of made a contested catch. The Nebraska guy kind of just missed the ball there. I mean, that was sort of a back against the grain type of throw. Fortunate that ball got completed. Then you look at the second touchdown to Hudson. I mean, that went right through the Nebraska guy's hands again, bounced off Hudson, bounced off the Nebraska guy. That felt a little bit fluky. And then that last drive, up 21-20 on 3rd and 10. I mean, that was the game basically there, where Nebraska came off the edge and he, basically deflected the ball. It was just a knuckleball that found Lemon again on sort of a double doinker. I mean, how many double doinkers were sort of in this game? So obviously some really good. I thought he threw a really nice ball to Deuce for that other touchdown drive. Really nice play action there. And obviously you can kind of see the athleticism for sure of getting outside the edges and kind of chucking it. But you have to sort of give the grade as an incomplete here because, we just haven't seen enough yet to sort of make judgment. The numbers were nice, but honestly, this was, I mean, in the Lincoln Riley language, this was 3 plays from being a 5 turnover game, very, very easily. So fortunate that SC got the win. He was up and down, pretty erratic. So it'll be good to see him sort of moving forward over the next 2 weeks and sort of build on this. Second takeaway, I thought Lincoln called a really great game and set up a really nice offensive scheme. I think that having Maiava in shotgun with Woody Marks next to him really was able to kind of go back to that kind of zone run scheme, where he's able to sort of set the convoy, weak side offensive lineman pulling into the direction of where the running back wants to go downhill. I thought he did an outstanding job of that. Woody Marks had his greatest game as a Trojan, in my opinion, 19 carries, 146 yards. I think the story of the game was really more Woody Marks than it was Maiava. Maiava might have been the story, but I think Woody Marks was the MVP. And I thought Lincoln did a really nice job with some of that jet sweep action. There was the motioning off of that and, a little push pass to Branch from time to time, a fake push pass, and then giving it to Marks. So there was some really nice sort of actions there, and then allowing Marks to go in the flat and be a receiver. He had one play in the second half where the second quarter where, they moved the play in one direction and then threw it back to Marks to sort of set up the convoy off of that action. And then, of course, from that scheme, getting Deuce Robinson open on that play action where Robinson was set up more as a tight end than he was a receiver. So I thought Lincoln did a really nice job getting the likes of, Maiava kind of comfortable. It started looking a little bit more like the UNLV kind of go-go offense a little bit. He tried to sort of tailor his philosophy to what Maiava had already experienced. And I thought that was a really subtle nuance and an outstanding job by Lincoln in doing that. And that's what propelled Marks, Deuce, even Zach Branch, on some inside screens, started to see a little bit more pop there. And then third, I thought the defense was just really gritty. I mean, I don't think this is a defense that's necessarily going to wow you in terms of sacks or in terms of dynamic plays. But I thought 4 guys in particular really battled. And I thought Mascarenas Arnold, Cobb, I thought Kamari Ramsey, and I thought Jalen Smith, the 4 of them just battled so hard in this game. The 2 linebackers did a really nice job of limiting Nebraska's plays, even when they got to the second level, to sort of contain it from there. Nebraska only had 310 yards total offense. And then I thought Jalen Smith did an outstanding job off of that Raiola interception. And Kamari Ramsey made some absolutely huge plays. I mean, there was one open field tackle on the Nebraska back there in the fourth quarter where if he doesn't make that tackle, that could have been a touchdown down the sideline for Nebraska. Nebraska could have taken the lead in the fourth quarter. And I know Kamari Ramsey was banged up and hurt, and he still sort of battled through it and made some huge plays. So overall, I think it was up and down. It's nice to get the win, but I don't know if I saw enough from Maiava to sort of make an assessment. I think it's an incomplete grade. And, I was a little bit disappointed, Coach and Rye, coming off of a bye. They still looked a little flat. They're still a little flat, a little lifeless. It was a little lifeless in the stadium too. Some empty seats. It was kind of a 50-50 crowd. So it's nice to get the win and move forward. But I do think schematically and emotionally, they're going to have to go to another level in these next 2 weeks, particularly in the rivalry game. If they demonstrated what they demonstrated yesterday, I think it's going to be hard to win either rivalry game. So some good, some to work on, but it's always great to learn from a victory.
Yeah, so I find it interesting that there was no change in the performance of play from SC yesterday, even though there was a new quarterback, right? We're in a dogfight with a team that's, they're 5-5 now, 2-5 in conference. You know what I mean? For us to say that we're about equal with Nebraska says a lot on Lincoln Riley and says a lot on the potential of this team. That means we're not a really good team at all. We're a below average ball club who's going to fight. We're just average, like not even average. We're below average who's going to fight to be in a bowl game. Like we're a MAC bottom tier team, right? And so that's a little scary. The problem, what I'm going to speak about is I think we're a culture of excuses, and I think we've been accumulated to become a culture of excuses. Maiava threw a bad pick. He legit threw a pick to a smash, pretty much a floating corner in the smash route yesterday. And the first excuse was, this is his first time starting. Like, cut him some slack. It was a bad read. Bad read, bad throw. Also, the numbers didn't change. We had 400 yards in offense. The performance that we saw on the field did not change. We saw no change at all yesterday with a new starting quarterback. The text messages I got at 1 o'clock, and they were from Kenny. He's an Oregon Duck. He always talks mess. You guys know first text message he sent me was, I can't believe Lincoln Riley listened to the fans and took the quarterback out. The second text message he sent me was, Maiava's not it. You're going to need to put Miller Moss back in. The last one he sent me was, you want me to talk to Phil and loan you $190 million as long as we cherry pick your recruits. So this is somebody who played in the NFL, played Oregon, has tied the Rose Bowl record in sacks, is on the wall at the Rose Bowl for the Rose Bowl game, has a very good eye in football, and pretty much saw the same thing I saw. I think we needed to make a change. I'm not going to say that, and I'm not trying to sound like I'm contradicting anything. We needed to make a change, but I think we thought that the change was going to be something dramatic, and there was no change yesterday at all. We come out with a win, a nail biter against a very, very below average team, and all of a sudden Maiava's the savior. Put Maiava on the field against Penn State. I don't think anything changes. Put Maiava on the field against that Michigan game. I don't think there's any change in the situation. People say, he's young and this and that. I can't accept excuses anymore because we're too far deep into this. We're 100 million deep into this. We're at the point now to where we need to beat teams like this 40 by 40 points. We're at the point now to where, well, we won, so it must have been Maiava. Nah, Nebraska just is a bad football team. We play a better football team. We do that next week against you. We could do that again next week against UCLA. We lose. The victory bell goes back to its vacation home for another year. It doesn't get to come home. It goes back to his vacation home for another year. We do that in 2 weeks against Notre Dame. We're turning the TV off at halftime. Like we make so many excuses as a culture, and it's just not as SC. It's as a culture. There's always a reason why this didn't work. There's always a reason why this doesn't happen. There's always a reason why this. There's always a reason why that. It's time to accept the facts. It's time to brace it. And I hate to be the rain cloud after a victory. And I'm happy we finally won. One more game, we get to a bowl game. We're not good enough. We're paying too much, and we're putting too much into an investment to not get a return on our money. And that's the point we're in now. People's going to blame NLI. People's going to blame this. Let's talk facts. Yesterday, they ran fly sweep with Zach Branch finally. Why haven't they been running fly sweep the whole season? Nothing was stopping Miller Moss from running fly sweep. All you do is catch and pitch forward. Miller Moss is able to do that. They were running sprint action. Miller Moss is one of the best quarterbacks that could throw on the sprint. They were also running, like you said, Jamal, they were putting winning marks into the flats and running things like that. They could have done that with Miller Moss. Why weren't they doing that with Miller Moss? So the whole time, Miller Moss isn't it. Miller Moss isn't it. But the play calling changes that could reach Miller Moss's capabilities, and it wasn't done. It's not good enough. We're still not good enough. Like, I mean, just all the excuses, man. Just all the excuses that we have. Oh, Maiava is the reason why. No, next week we play like that, we lose. 2 weeks we play like that, we lose. Like Ryan said, we did everything we can to give the ball back to give this game away. You think if we give the game away to Notre Dame, you don't think they're going to capitalize on all those opportunities? Absolutely. We have to be. I mean, I walked away from that game yesterday not impressed. I was like, I can't believe this. I was more pissed off because I'm like, damn, I wish I was able to wear that jersey. Damn, I wish I was able to play on the field. That's the 1972 national championship team that you're honoring, and you guys just pretty much did not care. It's so upsetting to me. I'm at a point now to where it's just like, all right, let's find a way to find this. We need 190 million because the next coach is going to get 100 million. We got to provide Lincoln Riley. We need 190. That's where I'm at now. And I know you guys hate the fact that, we still won. We won to a very below average football team. So we went to a below average football team by 8 points. So at this point, are you saying that we're a below average team? Stop with the excuses. Let's talk truths. We're a below average football team. That's exactly what we are. For 190 million, we're paying a head coach to be in a below average football team. Not in 190, 100 million. He's a below average football team. What are we going to do? How do we fix it? If you walked away from that game impressed, was like excited for the future, we have problems as a fan base. We have problems as a culture. We have problems as a program. That yesterday was not good enough. I'm sorry. I know we won, but it just wasn't good enough. And my expectations are staying there. I'm tired of Jamal getting mad at me, saying I'm powdering people's butts and this and that. But that's just what it is. I apologize. I'm the rain cloud today, but I'm setting the expectation, and I'm setting it on that standard, and I'm keeping it there until we reach it. Ryan, you got anything?
I mean, I
hate when I'm negative and I'm bad and all that.
Well, I'd push back a little bit. Like, I saw a lot of change. I mean, 32 runs. Almost 200 yards on the ground.
But that could have been all year, though, Ryan.
That's a change. Been
all year.
You can't say there was no change.
I got you.
There's a change.
Touche.
Now we're not in the huddle. We're not on in the headset, so we don't know the play calls. So I'm not saying I'm right, you're wrong, but I think there's a lot of instances in this offense. It's a really RPO heavy offense, and there's a lot of instances where Miller Moss chose pass over run. And Maiava maybe chose run over pass. I mean, I think we've talked about this in the show before. There's instances where, you could see Moss calling out of runs or hanging onto the ball instead of giving Woody Marks the ball, or instead of taking it himself. Hard to say for sure. We're not in the huddle, but I mean, I think that's possibly part of it. The fact that this offense went from an RPO offense that saw a lot of run to a straight basically play action pocket passing offense with Miller Moss. So I don't know if it's necessarily just the play call as much as the quarterback choosing those plays. So, but no, I saw a lot of change. I'm not sitting here saying it was all good, but I think there was some positive change.
What do you got, Matt, man?
Yeah, no, I mean, I hear both of you, and I think you're sort of both right. I mean, I think the question is, yes, it's different, but is it better? Right? That's the question, right? It's so we can sort of agree that it's different, but is it going to translate into a better product on the field, at least for these last few weeks? And I think it's an incomplete. I think it's a TBD, because this sport is so much at the margins. I mean, if we just go back to that last drive, the SC's last drive, I mean, just go back and turn on the tape on 3rd and 10. I mean, got totally beat on at right tackle. Again, Murphy got totally beat, and Nebraska gets to Maiava. That ball comes out as a side. It was like Uranus, I mean, the way that ball came out. I mean, it was a side orbit ball, that was just sort of a fluke. I mean, it just sort of found Lemon, bounced off the Nebraska guy. If that's an interception and Nebraska goes down and kicks the game-winning field goal and wins this game 23-21, we're having a completely different conversation than we are right now. If, USC, if Maiava doesn't throw the pick six and maybe SC has more of a distance with the victory, we're having a completely different conversation. If any of the other two near misses that Maiava threw up became interceptions, we're having a completely different conversation. So I think this is one of those games, Coach, to your point, I agree with you that we played a mediocre football team and we barely won. This team right now is a mediocre football team. And the narrative of we were only 4 or 5 plays away, that's not, because this team is still 5, 6, 7 players, really good players away from being, I think, the team, Coach, that we all want them to be. And so that's just the nature of where we are right now. Now, the question is, can this group sort of galvanize over the next 2 weeks during rivalry week and kind of salvage this season and make a bowl game? But this is a mediocre football team. I mean, you saw it even the way they were sort of playing the chicken and the egg game at halftime. Like nobody, at the end of the half with 2 minutes to go, nobody was calling timeouts. Nobody was trying to get the ball back. Like everybody was trying to avoid the mistake. You could tell that Holgerson didn't really have a ton of confidence in Raiola, and Riley didn't have a ton of confidence in sort of the Maiava precision and decision-making. He definitely opened up the playbook for Maiava. So you saw kind of two coaches, even at the end of the half there, sort of say, okay, we'll just kind of get to the end of the half 14-all. It was two very, the text messages that were sort of going on in my threads, I said, these are two very evenly matched mediocre football teams. We saw a mediocre football game yesterday. And so let's see the evolution here with Maiava after a start as he gets more comfortable. We saw some progress at the end of that game when he was kind of feeling that rush. He threw one of those balls away where before he was trying to sort of force that ball in, so let's see him sort of evolve over these 2 weeks. And this is why you start him, because you got to know what you have, and you got to know what you have over a consistent body of work over 3 games. So then if you're Lincoln Riley, you can make a decision of, is he my absolute quarterback for 2025? Do I have to go into the portal, get somebody? Obviously, we're talking about all the high school kids right now, but which true freshman is going to be truly ready to start? That remains to be seen. Or, is he my guy? So I think this is all part of kind of the preseason discovery, if you will, going into 2025. But I agree with you. I mean, I didn't walk away there inspired. And particularly, and I know this is not the segment that we're going to be talking about this, but if I was a Longstreet and I was a Stewart and I sat there and I sort of saw the environment yesterday, I don't know if I'd be sort of inspired to come to USC, to be very honest with you. I mean, it was kind of a lifeless stadium, 50-50 crowd, and it was kind of a mediocre football game. Now, hopefully, the coaching staff is selling them a bigger vision behind the scenes. But in all fairness, in front of the scenes, I don't know if that was the game to sort of sell the USC program overall, both on the field as well as from an atmosphere perspective.
Well, it was a 1:00 game. So the good thing about 1:00 games is that you get to enjoy the LA lifestyle a little bit earlier. So I think that could get you to commit a little bit. I'm looking at the comments. I was saying this. There's some defensive stuff in here.
Defense competed really hard. The defense competed really hard.
The defense played well. The defense
played
well.
really well.
You know who else played well?
Starters there. I mean, there's starter and building block guys there for next year, and I think that's what we have to be really excited about. I mean, Kamari Ramsey is going to be the leader of the back end of this defense next year, no question about it. He just has to stay healthy, and he can sort of set that culture on the back end. I think we're all starting to see the evolution of Cam Fountain as really a stalwart on that front end. Hopefully, an Anthony Lucas kind of comes back from injury, and then you start sort of peppering it out with Green, and then
Gentry.
You've got Gentry and Tompkins, and you've got guys now that you can sort of put together, and be excited about next year. So I'm getting excited about kind of the right mesh of this defense next year. In terms of guys that are getting really good experience, they competed really hard, and Holgorsen tried to do some things. But Raiola still looked really confused and tentative, and that's a testament to SC's play defensively.
I wonder who this is. Anybody has any guesses who this is? This is first name?
The Thrill, Decker, and the Victory Bell week has already begun.
Will, it's only PI if they call it.
Yeah.
It's only PI if they call it, Will. Hey, so I will say this. You know who also played a very good game? Both tackles played really good. They held number 9. For the most part, they contained number 9 because he's vicious. And I didn't know he was 300 pounds playing the edge. That's legit. You know what I mean? Like, that's a very big dude playing the edge. Like, they did very well too. And I just want Ryan, I will say this, just my rebuttal, that we should have been running the ball like that a long time ago. I would say this though. So I'm gonna say the positive. Joyner got a little bit more carries than normal, and I'm good with that. We're starting to see what we're going to get out of Joyner. Joyner got the ball 7 times. He normally gets it like 2 or 3, right? He got the ball 7 times, 19 yards. We got to see a lot of younger guys. We're starting to see people rotate in. The only problem I don't like with that is getting guys reps in this game. Next week, those guys aren't going to get reps, and that's how you get people to become upset, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm starting to play now. Like, they're starting to see me. Like, I got a chance for next year. And then you get into these 2 rivalry games that mean so much to the school, so much to your contract, so much to your employment. You're not going to give these guys the same opportunity for the next 2 weeks. They're going to get upset, and then all of a sudden, they'll be like, I'm going somewhere else. These guys play me. That's the only fear I have with that. And Jamal will say this. I'm a little astonished that you're looking forward to next year. You told me not to look forward to next year anymore because of the portal.
I mean,
I'm just joking. It's just
no. I mean, it's a fair point, but I think next year's here. I mean, so yeah. But it's interesting. So we have Victory Bell Week coming up, right? Tomorrow we'll talk about Madman Mania will talk about is there really a quarterback controversy? Should they go to the portal? I think we should dabble on it a little bit. I think they need a backup. And to be honest with you, I think they need to recruit 2 quarterbacks. They need to get Longstreet, or they need to get Julian Lewis, and they need to go get a guy that's not as good as him, but just is one attribute off. They need to start building depth at this position. This being the one guy thing is not very conducive to an environment for football, right? When you think about it, Pete Carroll had these were Pete Carroll's quarterbacks: Carson Palmer, Matt Leinart, John David Booty, Mark Sanchez, and then Aaron Corp was also in that too, but Aaron Corp never played. But Aaron Corp will kill in Lincoln Riley's offense. He was just ahead of his time, just to let you guys know. But Aaron Corp didn't really get a chance, but Aaron Corp was really good. And then who was after Mark? God dang it. That was Barkley.
Barkley. You're right. Barkley and then Sam Darnold. But all these guys were behind somebody. You know what I mean? Like the year of JT Daniels and Sam Darnold, those 3 guys were legit guys, right? They were all behind each other. I still think, and I would die on this hill. People could call me crazy, but you need to create some type of competition and some type of making them feel uncomfortable. Just a little bit of looking over your shoulder, like, all right, I know this guy's on my back, and I know I can't really mess up because I could get my spot taken. Just a little bit of that. You know what I mean? Not conniving, like, oh, I'm the guy behind him's cutting his Achilles, but you need to know, like, hey, if I don't play well, my spot could get taken. I don't think they have that, and I think that's why I could be wrong. This is just my opinion, and this is just is what I think. I'm not saying this is factual, but I could be wrong. But this is what I think. I think you get so comfortable, you throw a pick, you're like, it's all right, and my spot's safe. You know what I mean? Compared to look at Texas. Hey, Quinn Ewers, you're having a terrible day against Georgia. Arch, let's go. That kind of like, oh.
Coach, I mean, I agree with you, but that's like not the norm. I mean, they're paying each of those guys $3 million to be. They're the two highest paid NIL quarterbacks in college football. No other team has a back.
Quinn and Arch?
Yeah. Arch is making more than every quarterback not named Shedeur Sanders.
So you're telling me no. Well, I shouldn't say no. You're telling me that no other college football program has a backup quarterback that's as good as their starter?
You have in today's college football, you have your starter, and then you have a 5-star freshman is your backup, and then some walk-on probably. Now, I'm not at all saying I disagree with you. Like, you need to go get competition. I think they'll go to the portal again, and they'll get a 25 recruit. I'm just saying you're not going to have the days of Pete Carroll where you have a quality starter, but you need to have competition 100%. So I'm totally agree with you. I'm just basically saying college football is so different now. You can't just go pick a top 10 QB, have two top 20 QBs on your roster, because with NIL and with the transfer portal, it's just not conducive anymore. Like, the Texas situation is not the norm. That is a rare situation.
Yeah. This hold on. Let me find my mouse. This is a good point right here. Look, you remember every Monday practice, Pete had everyone competing for the spot. In fact, it wasn't Monday. It was actually Monday through Wednesday, because they wouldn't make a change on Thursday unless it was injury. But that's actually, you know what I mean? Like, but like you said, Ryan, it just doesn't happen anymore. And I'm kind of shocked that doesn't happen anymore. That's a death to college football. Because let me tell you why.
But it happens to an extent. Like, Jacoby Lane didn't play yesterday.
I get you.
His spot got taken.
I got you, but this is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. So I'm a quarterback, right? And I'm a starting quarterback for my team. I get drafted. And then all of a sudden, I start to stink it up. And then my spot gets taken, right? They put in the backup. We got to make a change at backup, because in the NFL, they'll make a change at the backup. Everybody's getting paid millions of dollars. Mentally, you're not ever going to get right again. I shouldn't say that, but like, scientifically, you've been for 4 or 5 years, you've been telling yourself, I can mess up because I'm not going to get my spot taken. Then all of a sudden you go to this new situation, you start to mess up, you get your spot taken. How are you able to handle that now mentally, now that you got your spot taken? You know what I'm saying? That's a bad strategy. You know what I mean? Like, I know one guy who should be coach of the year, but he's not going to be coach of the year, and I think it's a travesty. I know one guy that will replace his quarterback if his quarterback wasn't performing. The dude at Indiana. I guarantee you that dude has a backup and is creating competition. I guarantee you that, and I could be wrong.
I'm not sure you guys are disagreeing.
No, we're not.
I'm sort of confused on the points of view. I think that this again comes down to NIL, guys. I mean, look at, we talk about the Texas example, Ewers, Arch Manning. Look at Oregon, Dylan Gabriel, Dante Moore. Look at Indiana with Rourke, and then they got Jackson after that. Indiana just paid Cignetti $8 million a year. I mean, good for Indiana to pull the money together to make that happen.
They did it the smart way too, man. It's only $8 million.
Way. That was the Mahomes way. Actually, they took a page out of Kansas City Chiefs playbook with how they dealt with Mahomes. That's how Indiana dealt with Cignetti. Brilliant job by Indiana, by the way. But I think if you're just a top program, I'm not saying Indiana's a top program historically, but when you look at sort of these perennial sort of blue bloods, you look at Carson Beck in Georgia, who's behind him. You look at Mill Road, Alabama, who's behind him. You have to be able to have the money to pay for two guys. I disagree with this. There's only one way to sort of build a team in today's college football, and what QB1, QB2, QB3 have to be. You just have to have the money to be able to have more than one guy in your QB room, because the money is what's going to keep the kid there for a year, even if he's not playing, and the opportunity to get tutelage and to be ready for next year. And so that's what this sort of ultimately comes down to is, moving forward, are you going to be able to have the resources to be able to kind of create that urgency, coach, to your point, in the room? Because there's a delicate balance there, right? Like, you want the urgency. You want to be able to say, hey, someone's sort of nipping on my heels. I got to bring my A game every day. But at the same time, you don't want to sort of create this anxiety, because there's kids that don't sort of respond to that either, right? I mean, if you're always sort of looking over your shoulder at every mistake or two and then not perform as a result of that, that's not really kind of creating an environment where you're going to be your best, right? So there's a delicate balance there. The best way to sort of have that balance between urgency and anxiety is you have enough money to bring two guys in, and that second guy is a little bit younger. And he doesn't have to be a guy straight out of high school. He could be a redshirt freshman, whatever, but you're paying kind of top dollar to both, so they both sort of understand their role. And the second guy's job is really to push that guy, and only if something kind of goes wrong, either with win-loss record or with injury or just with, the locker room, does that second guy sort of step in mid-season. I think that's how you sort of have to approach it in this day and age. I agree with Ryan, coach. I mean, that 05 team, right, that we love, where Leinart was QB1, Booty was QB3, and Sanchez was QB3. I mean, that's a $12 million quarterback room in today's day and age. I mean, you're taking up 65%, you're taking up 60% of Ohio State's overall NIL for the year in your quarterback room. So I agree with you that the days of that are gone away in a sense, because there's not that many dollars to sort of go around. But that's how you got to approach it. And I think that's why, back to sort of, being SC centric, I mean, that's why you got to play Maiava. He's got an incomplete grade with me. It wasn't good. It wasn't bad. We need to see more, because there was enough good there, but there was also enough bad there that we need to see which of those two characteristics sort of wins out. And so he's going to have two really great tests between Notre Dame and UCLA. I hate to break it to you, Coach, Miller Moss is gone. Okay, we're not going to see Miller Moss in a USC uniform, like playing meaningful football again. That ship has sailed. Mama Moss has spoken. Okay, that's done.
Did you see that? Did you see that?
Mama Moss has spoken, and that's the mic drop, and that's done. Okay. And so moving forward now,
what did she say? I didn't see it.
Well, she quoted Eisenhower and said that that the scapegoat is the easiest of all sort of outcomes in a situation. So and truthfully, Miller Moss's love for USC it comes from his mother, because of her ties to USC as a professor and grandfather and all of that stuff. So if Mama says I'm done, he's done. Okay, there's no shot at that point. So I think that's why you got to sort of look at Maiava over these next 3 games and then make that assessment. Is he my guy, or does he have enough where he's definitely, I can mold him in the offseason to be QB1, or is there enough on the line where I need to go bring somebody else to sort of compete with him, which is a different NIL value, or there's some red flags here. I really need to go get kind of an elevated other quarterback, which is a different NIL value. So that's why you're sort of going through this assessment right now. And that's why he's got to play the next 2 games. And you have to really get credible signal from that.
Hey, so I don't know. We'll talk about it tomorrow. I'll write it down. I was going to say, because that is a common thing. Miller Moss isn't fitting in Lincoln Riley's system. Is that Miller Moss's fault, or is that Lincoln Riley's fault? We'll talk about that tomorrow. I'll write that down. I just saw that, and I thought about that actually one day, right in the Metrolink home from work. Like, we're putting this on Miller Moss, but is it really Miller Moss's fault, or is it Lincoln Riley's fault? Well, that's a good topic for the discussion tomorrow, man. I'll write that down so I won't forget, because I have part-time CTE, so I may forget. No, but let's get back to this game. So we got the Bruins next week. We won't have Salute to Troy next week. We'll have the Victory Bell show. Hopefully we can work it out. We get it live from the LAFB Lounge. We'll talk about that.
That'd be great. Absolutely. Thrill. It feels like Thrill is already in this show right now.
Thrill is in the show. Thrill. Let me see if I can find it real fast. But what I was gonna say is, are we so? And I know you said this, Matt. Man, we're treating this like a preseason, but how far do we go? There it is, right there. How far do we let this is the best way to say it. Do we let this get out of control, or how much do we contain it, right? So let's just say there's a game that's just completely bad, right? Like growing pain game, like Maiava's just not clicking, right? And I know Miller Moss is done, and I get that, and I'm not saying Miller Moss come in, but are we just like, all right, this season's all for naught? Let's just get it all out right now. If we have a bad game and Maiava happens to throw a 5-pick game and he's just not clicking, do we just let it ride? Or do we at some point contain it and just bring it back in? Like, where are limits to this of treating this as a 2-game preseason game? Like, where are our limits to this? You go first, Matt, man, and then we'll pass it to Ryan.
I mean, I hope it's not going to kind of come to that, we're not, sort of it's the ultimate doomsday. But I think given Lincoln's history, he really likes to sort of make a roster decision, particularly at his beloved quarterback. I mean, that's his treasured position given his core competency. He likes to make a decision and then stick it out as long as he can. So short of Maiava, again, I said this last week, short of Maiava throwing 5 picks and the crowd like throwing nachos on the field and all of that stuff, like I think you're really sort of working this thing through, because by changing to Miller Moss, and Moss is such a great kid, and he comes from such a great family, and he bleeds USC, like he'll always do the right thing. But I almost don't even know if that's fair to Miller to sort of bring him back and have him sort of compete if he's not really in your future plans. And I think for whatever reason, it feels like a point of no return with Miller Moss. A kid that waits 2.5, 3 years in the program, finally gets a shot, gets the 10 starts, and then gets yanked. It just doesn't seem like you're coming back from that. I mean, stranger things have happened in college football. It's why we love the sport. Just when you think you don't know. But it just sort of, from a human perspective, from sort of an emotional element, it just feels like that chapter has closed. And so as a result of that, I think you're almost doing more harm than good if you're Lincoln Riley by bringing Miller Moss back in, because what you're doing is you're going back to a guy that doesn't necessarily want to be there next year, and then you're pulling a guy that wants to be there next year, and then you're sort of messing with his confidence a little bit as well. So I think that Maiava has the keys to the kingdom over these next 2 weeks. I think the evidence of that is just how open kind of the playbook was for Maiava. There was no kind of conservative play call in there, right? I mean, he took his shots. We wanted to see the whole body of Jayden Maiava, and I think we're going to want to see it in the context of some meaningful games against some feisty teams that are our rivals before you make an assessment. So short of, God forbid, some injury or, just really a tough situation where it's a 4 or 5 pick game, middle of the third quarter, and the fans are just sort of turning on you, and you just need to give him sort of a breather to sort of reset mentally. Short of any of those extreme circumstances, I fully expect Maiava to play every snap over the next 2 weeks.
And let me like correct what I was saying. I'm not saying put a Miller Moss in, because you made a good point. What I'm saying is, like, yesterday the playbook was wide open, right? And we get to a game to where it's like Maiava's just not clicking, right? Which is it happens with every single quarterback from the NFL all the way down, right? Maiava's just not clicking. Like, when do we just bring the playbook back and, like, all right, people start to know, like, this is really conservative. Like, when do we, get control of it that
Coach,
way?
and I'll say this, and then I'm hogging the tube too much.
No, we'll go to Ryan after.
I think they're going to cut it loose next week. The only scenario where maybe they rein it back, maybe a little bit, is in that Notre Dame game, because the bowl game is on the line, right? Let's say things don't work out next week, for instance, and you're sitting at 5-6. Then now there's an opportunity to win that last game or really try and push in order to make that bowl game. So now there's some real stakes. If SC comes back, wins next week, they're 6-5. I think Notre Dame he could do anything he wants in that game. So I think the only caveat there is if you're close on either line to kind of get to that bowl game.
I got you. Ryan, what do you think?
I don't need to really add much. I don't think there's any. He's the quarterback the rest of the 2 games, and they'll see what they truly have, good or bad. So I don't think there's any reining back or any changes or anything like that. So yeah.
You think they just gonna let it fly for the next 2 games? I feel you, Ryan. Just fuck it, piss in the wind.
Why not?
Yeah, I got you. You guys got anything else? Victory Bell Week.
I gotta address Thrill's, PI comments over here. He got away with the PI stuff. Look, I mean, let's be very clear. That last one was an egregious PI. There was sort of an egregious PI even on the drive before for Nebraska, when they kicked the field goal to make it 21-20. But if anybody deserves sort of the benefit of some calls this year, it is the 2024 USC Trojans. So, it's evened out from a karmic perspective. I don't like to talk much about officiating, but finally SC got some calls go their way in conference play.
Hey, you know what was crazy though? We did get a lot of calls yesterday, and I was like, this is weird.
It felt like a makeup game,
yeah.
A little bit,
Yeah, it was one of those things like every time the flag was thrown, I'm like, oh man, it was like, oh, it's against Nebraska. Oh, and then when they showed the penalties, I'm like, this is an evenly called game. Like, I can respect that. I will say this, quick story time. When we played Nebraska in 2006 at home, the hotel we stayed at, full of Nebraska fans doing their chants the whole night, trying to keep us up all night. Nebraska travels very well. I'm impressed with how Nebraska travels. They hit you with that "Go Big Red," "Go Big Red." But
all right, take it easy, coach. All right, just take it easy.
They normally get shut up, so we shut them up yesterday. That works out. And then a sad note, Poly lost. So I'm just watching 2 programs die in front of me that I was a part of. Like, it's so sad, but that's CIF's fault. That's another show. When we start a high school show, I'll let you guys know where CIF completely botched this whole thing. But anyway, neither here nor there. Yeah, that's a good point. All right, one more thing. I did like one thing yesterday. Before the game, they did not let them step on the logo, and they got Ryan. Did you see that? Did you actually see that when it happened?
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved every bit of that. I thought we were going to blow them out. I'm like, yeah, don't let them stand on our logo. They don't stand in the middle of our field. Like, what's wrong with them? Like I loved every bit of that. But, at the end of the day, zebra doesn't change the stripe. So things really did happen. But I love that part. If we could take that and transform it into play, we'll be undefeated. We'll be talking playoffs. We'll be happy. We'll be trying to book flights to go to the national championship. But we're a long ways from that. But hopefully we'll get there one day. You know what I mean? We don't know what Barry Odom, but we're a long way from Barry Odom too. Get to see that go offense in person. Good deal. You guys got anything else before you get out of here?
Yes,
Another
sir.
good one, Coach. Always great to see you guys. More content this week. I mean, we got the show tomorrow. We're gonna have Victory Bell. Man, get your popcorn ready for that Victory Bell show. This is gonna be something else. Getting Coach Rowe and Will the Thrill Decker in the same room together. That's gonna be really, really fun.
And Madman, I've been waiting all year to tell Will I told you so about Chip Kelly. I've been waiting all year.
Will is ready, man. Will is ready.
I've been waiting all year to tell him I told you so about Chip Kelly. Hey, Will, I told you so, but we get to talk about it on the show. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate all you guys for tuning in and watching. Had a good viewership today. Appreciate you guys. Bet Online Salute Detroit podcast. Victory Sunday. Trojans beat the Cornhuskers 28-20. 5-5 on the season. We won't mention the conference record. We'll just let that one just go away. I appreciate you guys. You guys know where to go. LAFB Network. You guys know where to go. Live free. Fight on.